And we're back with me, Johnny McMurray, on the On the Spot Football podcast for yet another fantastic guest. Tonight's guest brings us into the realm of analysis. Sport analysis, massive at the minute. And this man worked with me at Ballymena, and we had a great laugh together. It's my pleasure to introduce Dee McAuley. Dee, how are you, sir?
I'm all right, mate. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you,
surprised, to be honest, but
thank you for coming down, giving me your time, and it could go either way here. We don't know. Some of the conversations we've had in the past are probably a wee bit mental, so like this
might need to put a age restriction on this.
Yes, over 18, maybe. Hopefully not, but
it'll not.
Alan's very good these days at bleeping stuff out, so if
Good.
we need to get rid of stuff, we can get rid of it.
Good.
How are you?
Well, this has started well.
Yeah, well.
No, I'm doing well, mate. Everything's good. Busy enough. Still, I'm at a club now. I'm at Portadown. Keeping busy there, and family life's pretty good. Just trying to get through every day with a positivity of some note.
Good. Well, to be honest, I didn't realise that you were in a Portadown. Now it's probably kept that on the sly for me. I was talking to them over Christmas, but I didn't realise you moved there after Glenavon. But you've had a host of clubs, which is something that we will dive into.
Yeah.
And obviously it's an area which we haven't actually spoke about on the club or on the podcast. Sorry. So in terms of that, it's something that I find important, but I would love to know your proper give and take on it. Obviously, it's something that you specialise in, something that you've done for a long time. So before we dive into all that, I kind of want to know how it all began for you and how you got into sport and football, and obviously how analysis became something that you really wanted to focus on.
Yeah. I played football at a young age. Probably had a bit of talent. Did well. Didn't look after myself. Probably off the pitch. Probably had a wee bit of a checkered background, a wee bit of a tough upbringing. And living in West Belfast, that can be normal.
Mm-hmm. A
bit of a tough upbringing, but I struggled in terms of dealing with feelings. So I was playing football and doing well, but when I probably wasn't doing well in football, I got to know about it.
Okay.
And things were a bit tough at home. My mum and dad probably didn't get on the best, but probably just stayed with each other. And, my dad was a bit of a drinker. And he wasn't able to maybe bring out his feelings properly towards me, how to do things better. And whenever he was drinking a bit, he would give you quite a hard time if you didn't do well. As I say, I think there was talent there. And I went across the water 4 or 5 times, and there was a couple of clubs were really interested in signing, and a couple of issues come up that I couldn't sign. Played Irish League. I was at Crusaders, who were brilliant to me. I was kind of there from 1996, so I think at that time there was still a wee bit of troubles going on. So from me coming where I was, I lived on the Glen Road, which was the top of the Falls Road.
Yeah.
And you're going right into the Shore Road. And they were brilliant to me. And the people around it, and the supporters and all, everything was fantastic. And I was doing well enough. I was starting to train with the first team at 17. And at that time, they were known as the God Squad.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so you had...
As in Crusaders were known as...
Yeah,
right.
Because you had a lot of players, ex-players now, obviously, who had found their way into Christianity. So you'd Baxter Stephen, who's now obviously at Carrick, Roy McDonald, who assistant manager, still hovers around the club, Roy Walker, who was managing the club, Sid Burrows, Glenn Dunlop. So there's a whole host of them that had found God, and they were known as the God Squad. And
right, okay.
Whenever they were on the pitch, it was the complete opposite. Now, never swore, you could see they were about to and caught themselves on, but they would have sliced you in half.
Yeah,
like, they were animals, but fantastic footballers. But as I was starting to get later into my teens, I was struggling mentally and wasn't enjoying my football. I didn't know I was struggling mentally because round about 97, 98, 99, them days, social media, internet, and back in those days, mental health, I think was like unheard of.
It's non-existent now. Well, to be fair, I was probably 4 at this stage, so it wouldn't really matter to me at the minute. That's you showing
You
your
used to
age,
drive my
Do you know what I mean? But yes, I would agree completely that it's only probably been the last 8 or 10 years that you've started maybe to hear the word mental health publicly.
Yes, and I feel even still now we're miles behind, like miles behind.
Oh God, 100%.
And, you know, there was a pandemic a few years ago with COVID, and whether you believed in it or not is totally your opinion. It's nothing to do with me. But I believe where we live, there's been a pandemic for years, and it's mental health and suicide. And I genuinely believe we need to be more open and talk about it and get out there and say, listen, I've struggled. You can talk to me and I can hopefully show you what helped me. And if it leads you on the right way, even if it leads you onto that path to find your path, then that's a positive.
100%.
You know, I've lost a friend to suicide and it was horrendous, but I'll go into that a bit later. But with my football, you know, to say I was doing well at Crusaders, but nowadays you see all these quotes on social media about, you know, talent can bring you so far and its attitude, and I had a poor attitude towards the game, never towards other people.
Okay.
You know, I respected people and I was brought up with mannerisms and saying please and thank you. I didn't treat the game well enough. I didn't look after myself off the pitch, and when I realised I wasn't going to make it as a footballer across in England, I really took the huff with it.
Right.
And as I say, didn't treat it well. And round about 18, 19, I started doing the things that everybody else was doing, but they were probably doing it at a bit of a younger age, which was the norm. You know, they were probably trying a couple of drinks and all, but I was absolutely petrified of going home smelling of drink to my dad because he had to let you know about it, and that was fine.
Yeah.
You know, you shouldn't be probably drinking that underage. If people do it and their mums and dads let them, again, that's nothing to do with me, but I was absolutely petrified of my dad. But unfortunately, he had his issues growing up too. He grew up right in the heart of troubles, and as I've got older, it's learning that he was actually trying to do his best.
Yeah.
But couldn't project it in a way that he was showing me any kind of empathy or things like that.
It's kind of just taking that generational push where things become more normal in society at certain times. Like you're seeing a different society than your father would, and
Absolutely.
he's seeing a different one than his father would. And it's that sort of old school sort of mentality where that's just the way it was. Like people were just tough on their kids because they
Tough
wanted
love.
them to be aye.
And the thing is that the two words that absolutely put it to bed is old school.
Yeah.
You know, your dad would have come home years ago, absolutely black from working, you know, covered dust, cold, mud, whatever. Quick shower, bite to eat, bath, whatever it was, and would have sat there and smoked 10 cigarettes and had 7 or 8 beer. And that was
Okay.
and that was just the norm. But with my dad, it was 20 cigarettes and a bottle of vodka straight,
Right.
no mixer.
I couldn't, like, I wasn't trying to do that. Like,
You'd fill your car up on it. I'd need rubber sheets on the bed. So,
oh God.
but unfortunately, it started to get out of control for him. You know, he wasn't just drinking it to take the edge off a hard day. He was drinking it to get into a situation where he was trying to blank things out. And people were paying for it. You know, him and my mum didn't get on, and my mum ended up severely depressed and spending a lot of time in bed just.
Yeah.
And she got addicted to tablets, and she had been dealing with her issues, obviously. And I didn't quite fit in with all my friends. I was kind of obsessed with football, where they were doing everything.
Right, okay.
I was just in football, and it was probably, they were thinking, he's a bit weird.
Right.
Because all he does is kick a ball about. And literally, like, when people were going out and, you know, on their bikes and stuff, I just had a football in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
But as I get older, I didn't want to make it as a footballer. For me, it was to try and do it for my dad.
Right.
And that was the wrong reason then, because the enjoyment was starting to go out of it massively. And by the time I was starting to play for Crusaders and training with the first team, I was going over there and not taking it seriously.
Right.
And they were paying me. And anybody that is getting into football and gets a couple of pound out of it, no matter what age you are, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Especially, it doesn't matter the level either.
Absolutely not. And even if you're paying a fiver to play with people,
Yeah.
in your mid-20s, mid-30s, and we're seeing these over 40 leagues now, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it is.
Because you are involved in something with a bit of camaraderie, and you're getting out, and
It's a release. It's
absolutely.
a complete release.
Everybody behind their front door has issues going on, and if you can forget about them for an hour that you're playing, or 2 hours, whatever it is that you've left the house till you go back in, that's a plus.
Yeah.
You know, because again, we have a lot of mental health issues around the place, and unfortunately, I'm sure that you know somebody that's affected by mental health, and growing up, I found out people who were affected by mental health, and again, someone that's took their own life, and it's devastating. And with football, if we can use that as a release or a sport, then go for it.
Yeah.
But if you are struggling, you know, go and talk. It needs to be addressed more, and I know that you're an advocate for it. And there's a guy I worked with recently, Dee McAuley, is doing quite a lot trying to get people out and about and socialising, and like, it's fantastic work. Like, and absolute hats off to them, because they're leaving their house, their wife, their kids, whatever, to try and help other people push on. And I find myself now with analysis that I try and bring a human element into what I do.
Right.
So I try and get to know the person and what makes them tick, and try and get a softer side of them, because the higher the levels you go up, I feel there's obviously pressure on to win, and you've played out of the highest level of the point in Northern Ireland. You know, the Northern Ireland Premiership's the highest level. And it is all about winning, and it's collecting 3 points, so it can be a very ruthless, harsh atmosphere. So I try and bring a wee bit of, not softness, but an area of, yes, I can go and speak to him about maybe whatever's going on, but I also need to do my job and say, listen, you were fantastic at this. Could we do better at this? And how do we make everything better so that the group becomes better, so that the team, you know, collects points? But as I say, when I was playing at the Cruise, wasn't treating myself well enough, and started probably drinking around about 19, 20, and going out and partying. And because I was struggling mentally, I wasn't sleeping great. And even now, you know, I massively struggle with my sleep. And I started taking sleeping tablets.
Right.
But at the start, you were able to get them off your doctor, and you just said to them, listen, I'm struggling to sleep, and they prescribed them to you. You know, this is 20 odd years ago. And it started getting a wee bit out of control for me. And I started going down the leagues a wee bit. I went from Crusaders to Larne, the Carrick Rangers, and literally overnight just quit.
Okay.
I just hated football. And I think it was the mid-20s, round about 24. My last, like, I played under some great managers. I had Tommy Kincaid at Larne, and like, I remember him joining in training one night, and he was probably about 5 stone overweight, and he was twisting people inside out. Like, genuinely twisting people inside out. Really good guy, and I turned up there and was expecting him to do things for me, when it should be me trying to do things to impress him, to get in the team. Went down a wee bit, ended up with Carrick, played under Paul Mooney, and by that time I was still putting in performances, but it was erratic, and I got dropped a couple of games and was sitting going, how is this right? You know, what's wrong with him? But it was me, and I mentally wasn't doing well. And
at that stage, whenever that starts to begin and that downfall starts to happen, do you think to yourself that you are potentially the problem to your own demise at this stage, or do you think that
it took me too long to work it out and come around to it? Okay. As I say, I was mid-20s, and that would have been 2004. You know, mental health still wasn't known. I didn't know you could actually go to somebody, you know, like a counsellor, and speak about it. I had no idea you could do these things. I thought you went to a doctor and they'd have said there's a few tablets, and I just didn't think that would have worked. And and I didn't want my friends to know about it, and I definitely didn't want any of my family to know about it. But
So how does that affect you though? If your lifestyle starts to begin to change, and you've came away sort of from the football side of things, and you're out partying, say your weekends, and you've got more in touch with sleeping tablets, as you say. What is that like? How different is it, say, potentially having a sort of like an addiction to sleeping tablets than you would to somebody who potentially has one to drink or drugs?
I think with sleeping tablets is that I was able to hide it pretty well. You know, if you were getting up the next day and you're a wee bit drowsy, you just say, "Oh, I haven't slept great," and people are going, "Oh, he doesn't sleep."
Yeah.
But the thing is, with anything, when you start taking them, you get used to them, and then you need to take more to get that 7-8 hour sleep, and then you really start taking them, and then you just start taking them for the sake of taking them.
So does it begin to stop working?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does. And it's like anything that whenever you have your first pint, you know, you might feel tipsy, but now it might take 4 or 5. It's the same. It's the same with those. But unfortunately with those, they are playing with your brain. You know, they're trying to put you to sleep. And sometimes I was just taking them for the sake of taking them and keeping myself awake. And I already wasn't in a good place, not realising it. And I got to around about my mid-20s, and I was becoming a father and stuff, and I wasn't good at it because I emotionally didn't know how to connect with people and express myself, and I was probably a bit like my dad and stuff, and like he's, as I say, he didn't know how to probably deal with his feelings, and I was kind of turning out the same without realising it. Around about my mid-20s, I remember getting a phone call in the middle of the night, morning, and one of my friends had died. Okay. A really close friend, like, and I don't want to say his name, you know, in respect to his family. And by the way, what a footballer.
Okay.
If you can ever go into YouTube, there's a clip of Chris Waddle. I think he's playing like the soccer sixes. And it shows you him dribbling the ball with the outside of his left foot, and he bends it over a goalkeeper from inside his own half. It's like a 5-a-side court. And I remember texting my mate going, "Does it remind you of anybody?" And he goes, "Aye, such and such name." And I goes, "What happened there?" And his, unfortunately, was substance abuse. It was cocaine.
Right.
And he started getting, if you want, dependent on that. And it just got out of control. And from what I'm led to believe, I don't fully know. I think it was like a brain hemorrhage. Unfortunately, took him, and he was 24, 25, maybe a year younger than me. And that absolutely ripped me in half. But I didn't deal with it well. It was just, again, just get on with it. You know, like everybody is suffering, but, you know, I just never spoke about it, ever. I'm one of these people that I would rather have a laugh about something at maybe my expense rather than be really serious about something. And that's why I'm always trying to be a bit of a joker. Might be bad at it, but I try and always try and make light of situations.
I get you.
To try and deflect off, if you're going through a bit of a bad time, I'll maybe try and make a joke, and people will look at me and
yes,
you can be okay.
Yes, I get you.
And I'm very good at vibing off people of who might be a wee bit quieter than what they normally are.
But do you think that you've been able to sort of understand this now because of the situations that you've been through?
Yes.
Okay.
And the person that you are now is always made by what you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, some people need to go through the crap to realise, you know, what the goodness is. And I was treating people badly, and I get into trouble with the law, unfortunately, and I have massive regrets of some of the decisions I made, and I paid for them. And thankfully, I paid for them and needed to. And after my first friend had lost his life, I really went downhill rapidly, but still didn't realise anything was wrong. So I was quite moody, and everything was in a rush, and I'd stopped my football, so I wasn't even exercising, and that has a bit of a bad effect and stuff, and I had no care in the world what was going on with me. Still trying to look after other people. You know, I was never disrespectful towards other people, but I was rude towards myself, had a bad attitude, wee bit of a chip on my shoulder, thinking things should be all right. You know, what's wrong with you? And it was me, and I couldn't nail it down. And this went on for a couple of years, and it was snowballing quickly. And one of my other friends that I grew up with, and you know yourself, as you get older, you still have friends that you could drop a text to, and you'd bump in the street and you'd stop and speak to for half an hour. And it doesn't make them any less of a friend if you're not in their house every single day like you did when you were younger. So this friend, he was going through a bit of a bad time and nobody knew. I think he had fell out with his partner. But me knowing him, he was always very happy-go-lucky. He was always, you know, well, what's happening? How are you? And all. And he had a wee smile in his face, and he was always working a wee move. I know a fella's got shirts you looking at, eh? Much harder. 30 quid, but I can get you them for 20, but he was getting them for a fiver. I was like, yes.
People are wheeler dealers.
Oh, listen.
Gotta make a living.
A big time. Big time. And I'm all in for it. If you're doing nobody no harm and you're getting a couple of pounds in your pocket, off you go, aye. Yeah. But he was struggling. And he was drinking a bit heavily, so he was, and not dealing with things properly. And I think he was trying to keep the persona up of being that happy-go-lucky guy. And he hung himself. And that was probably what absolutely made me collapse. And I remember going to his mum's house, and he was lying in the coffin. And I remember him lying there, and his uncle was there, and I knew his uncle well through youth football. I said, what's he doing there? And he goes, I don't know. I don't know. And I remember just looking at him and thinking, what's going on here? This isn't life. You're meant to like grow old and kind of like keel over from old age. You know, what's going on? But I was massively struggling too, like massively, but still not acknowledging it. And I had started a new job by a year or two, and it was a bit of shift work. And with my sleep pattern, not great. Because it was a shift pattern, it completely knocked my sleep. So taking these tablets now was like taking Skittles.
Right.
And I was taking like 30 a day.
30 sleeping tablets a day?
A day. Not even at night. So this was during the day.
So how does that, like psychologically, how do you function? Like if their whole sole purpose is to put you down, pretty much.
They are, yeah.
And you're able to just like continue on.
It was almost like autopilot. It's like driving your car and putting on cruise control and only tapping the brake if you start getting too close to a car in front of you. Apart from that, you're just drifting along. That's the only way that I can describe it.
Is it any sort of high? Like, is that, or is that...
It was taking my problems away because it was giving you a relaxed sensation to put you asleep. So I was starting to care less about things. But it was affecting everything around me because I was literally just walking about like a zombie, just daft. And as I say, the friend that took his life, he'd been in that coffin. And we went to the mass, and I took sleeping tablets the night before, and I was in the mass, and I was crying my eyes out. And I was really, really starting to break down, And at home, I was trying to hide everything, but, you know, she could see. And I try and keep my family life private as well, you know. I've got great backings at home that I'm very grateful for, but she could see, and it wasn't right. And I remember going to the funeral and I was crying my eyes out. And we went to the graveyard, and if you know the way funerals go, the priest speaks a wee bit, and you're allowed to go up and pick up a wee small trough or whatever you call them, and you drop a wee bit of muck in. And I dropped the muck in, and I was crying my eyes out. And he had a young daughter, and she's, I could be a bit wrong here, but about 3 or 4. And obviously she had no idea what was going on. I remember looking over, and she had lifted a wee bit. She was dropping it in as if she was at the beach building a sandcastle. And I just couldn't take it. And I was just looking at her going, what can I do to protect you? You know, this is so wrong. This is so unfair. And your daddy's in there. And I'm sitting going, what is going on here? This isn't right. And he was a decent spud. And as I say, he loved a wee bit of mischief, but didn't harm anybody. And he's dead. Like, he's dead. And it's like, why? I remember looking at his older daughter, and she's just standing there, and I could only watch her for like half a second, and she was just pale, and it just looked as though that she wasn't in, if that makes sense. And I'm looking at her going, what can I do for you? And then his partner, ex-partner, whatever way you want to put it, I couldn't even look her in her eye, and I could hear her crying, and I'm going, just please take me off this world. I just can't deal with this, but wasn't saying it out loud. And I actually can visualise now. It was like me looking at that person over there and going, you need to get a hold of him here. He is falling apart. And I had to go to work the next night. I went back to the funeral party afterwards, spoke to a couple of mates, had 1 or 2 drinks, and just went home. But I had to go to work the next night, and I was on night shift, and I took more sleeping tablets that night that took no effect at all. Took a couple of sleeping tablets during the day. Tried to get off work that night, didn't really explain the situation. The boss said, no, we need you in, which was fair enough. Went to work that night, and the place that I was in was running lines. It was a factory, but our line wasn't working. There was work getting done on the machines, so they needed me to go in and help out a wee bit. And it was night shifts, so, you know, during the day, there's a lot of people about, but at night shift, it's more or less like skeleton crew. And so we went in, got a debrief. Manager said, right, this needs done, that needs done, this needs done. Everybody spread out the way you go. So my machine would have been about 50 foot high, about 40 foot wide, and about 25 foot long. So I went up a set of steps, had to brush my hands, sat at the side. As I say, there's a big drop, and there's a rope there. And I'm looking at the rope, and I'm sitting going, put it around your neck. There's a reel, put it around that and throw yourself off, because you'll be doing everybody a favour. And I've heard of people taking their life, and they might have had gambling debts or credit card debts or whatever. And people are saying dead selfish and all. And I actually thought that I was doing everybody a favour. I actually thought my son was looking at me and going, you're an embarrassment. I actually thought the people at home were looking at me and going, like, why are you not holding it together? You should be. And that's because of what I was used to when I was older. You should just man up. And you shouldn't. You know, you should be open about your feelings, and you should turn around and say to somebody, I need help here. I really need help. And I tied the rope around the reel, and I was holding it in my hand, and I was probably about 45 seconds away from killing myself. And I would have did it like that. And the manager walked up the steps, and he goes, what are you doing? And he wasn't kind of, what are you doing? Because he knew of the situation. He was kind of, you're not cleaning up or anything. He was literally just doing his rounds. And I said to him, I'm about to hang myself here. I really need some help. And at that time, I was still a wee bit of a mess in work, because I was trying to deflect of how I was feeling. And he looked at me, and he just seen that I really needed help. And he just went, right, put your stuff down, let's drive you home. And he got into my car, drove me home, opened up the front door, and wife opened the front door and just said to me, all right. I just absolutely fell apart in her arms. like fell apart. I've never cried so sore in my life, asking, can you please just fix me? Please fix me. I need so much help here. It's frightening. And she says, come on, we'll get you help. Spoke to doctors, went to counsellors, and I'd say for 8 months, every day, it was a war not to hang myself. I had it worked out to a T what to do. I had the belt sitting with the loop already in it, and I would still say to this day, the only thing that stopped me was I didn't have the courage. I had everything worked out. The only people that would have found me would have been adults, so my child wouldn't have. But looking back at it now, you're kind of going, the mind plays so much tricks on you, it's frightening. And I got help, and I got counselling, and I'm very open about mental health now. And if I can see people wobbling a bit, I would say to them, do you want to have a wee yarn in quiet? You know, my phone's on. Ring me, speak to me, and please be honest. If you are struggling, let's see what we can do to help you out. And again, it's all to do with me going through what I went through, that I hope that I can speak from the heart and say, I understand. I can help you. I am not the answer to your problems, but I will help you to get to the answer of your problems, and will point you in the right direction. And I think now we just need to try whatever it takes to get people along the right path. And there's still a lot of people that can deal with problems brilliantly. Like, I have some very good friends who lost the same friends that I did. We were part of the same group. Like, of Kev, Teaser, Boss, it's strange nicknames and all. Absolutely brilliant people. And I would say to them now, you know, I've been struggling, and Brew and Boss, Teaser and Kev would say to me, we're so glad you're here. But I was thinking back in the day, like, they wouldn't even come to my mass. And you just get so down into yourself that you get lost in thoughts of what's the right thing to do. And no matter what, you always should try and live as long as possible and do the right things, but try and keep yourself living. And unfortunately, in the place that we live in, like when my friend took his life, you know, it doesn't even go in the paper now. It's just normal. And that broke me as well. Like, he was a popular guy, real decent spud, and it's so normalised now of people taking their own lives that it doesn't even make news or newspapers, and things need to change. And I got the help, thankfully, and did counselling, and the big lifesaver was CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy.
Okay.
And it learns you how to deal with your emotions. So if you're ever sitting in the house and you ever get butterflies, you're actually thinking about something that gives you butterflies, but I never knew that. And so he taught me to tune into my thoughts. So if I'm ever feeling sad, it's like, that never comes on like that. You're thinking about that, but it's at the back of your head. But when you become sad, it's more or less made its way to the front and through you. So I now try to manage myself as much as possible and acknowledge, you know, what emotions and feelings I have. And that CBT helped me. And the wee lad started getting a bit older and asked me to take him to football. I said, right, okay. And by this time, I absolutely detested football. Like, I hated it. I said, yeah, okay. Took him to football, and sure, you know what happens next. Do you fancy coaching, mate? I heard you kick the ball. And it's like, mate, that's awful. And I go, oh, well, we're all... I took him to Aquinas, and like a very well-respected club, and a lot of the parents said, listen, you've played at a higher level than us, off you go on, and you're literally through in. But thankfully, it actually gave me a bit of a bug. Mm-hmm. And I started to enjoy it again, and you're getting out and about. And my wee lad doesn't like football at all now. He turned up to a game one time, and there was parents trying to fight each other on the sideline, and he just said to me, I don't want to do this. And I went to him, I can't blame you.
Yeah.
They're mental. You know what I mean? And he said, I just don't want to do this. And it's like, right, okay. But I had a wee bit of bug and started getting into my coaching patches. And I worked my way right up to my A licence. And then I started seeing that everything's starting to go computer-based and online. You know, like your
All these
podcasts and
wild,
stuff.
yeah.
You know, it's everything's going on online now. And I started getting into the computer side of things and looking on analysis. And then I was thinking, this could actually help people as well become better people, better footballers. And if you're happy in your life, you'll perform better at what you do. And I tried to bring that with me. And I kind of accidentally fell in the analysis. But then once I got into it, I really engrossed in it. And it's now close to an obsession, but it's a healthy one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be far worse.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
And I get great backings at home. And I've worked under some great people. There's not been a bad manager yet. I've been very lucky that way.
Yeah.
And if I'm honest, I still think I've got good relationships with players because I've been honest with them. And when I've went to show them things, because I've brought a wee human element across of getting to know them and speaking to them about their life first, that whenever I need to show them something to try and make them better, they actually take it on board.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately with football, to become better, you need to show people mistakes. And footballers are vain, especially nowadays. And they love to hear how good they are, which is okay. You know, back in the day, if you weren't doing well, you know, there was fisticuffs and all. But nowadays, you go in the change rooms and people are talking about sunbeds and all, and you're kind of going, right, this is mental. Like, what do you mean? So you kind of need to change with the times.
Yeah.
And I would try and approach them and say to them, I thought you did really well. Now, what the manager was talking about was this, this, and this. Mon will show you. So the next time it doesn't happen, and he doesn't shout at you, and they're going, brilliant. But I'm trying to show them something negative.
Yeah.
But because I've tried to spin it, and they're going, right, that'll make me better, and I probably won't get shouted at. They probably will. Then they come on board with you. And so then I'm able to start showing them more and more and try and improve them properly, which benefits them, but ultimately, for me, benefits the group.
Yeah.
And in football, it's all about collecting as many points as possible.
Absolutely.
Or medals in cup competitions. And mine's may be slightly different the way that other analysts do it, which is fine. Whatever way works, but I just try and build a wee relationship up with players, with managers, to try and make things better for the group.
Where did it start though? Because obviously you've had this sort of like roller coaster ride coming through, and how you've actually fallen into place where you've decided this is something that's got your back. Football's brought you to a level where it gives you like a spark. So I mean, you've a focus now, and you've something to look forward to Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays. Do you know what I mean? So what club do you go into? How do you get introduced to a club, and how do you introduce analysis into that club, or was it always there and you were just given the opportunity to go in to expand on that?
It probably, it's blowing up now, and it's actually getting massive within the Irish League, and there's still actually a couple of clubs that are still have it on board, but still are waiting to fully embrace it, which is okay as well, because, you know, it's almost a new thing, and you know, people are like with new things, it's kind of, ooh, just be careful with that. But I started off at Cliftonville, and I was working with the 20s. There's a guy there, Brendy Lynch, gave me an opportunity. He came in, and he said, come on in, can you analyse the 20s? And I said, yeah, no bother. And he said, what have you got? And I said, an iPad. He said, let's go. So I'm standing at the sideline like that for 90 minutes.
Standing recording it.
And it's like, them arms are going to get bigger. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he said,
for you.
No, not at all. And he said, have you no equipment? But I was getting in the computer side of it, but obviously I needed equipment to go with it too. So I started investing in that. But then the first team needed an analyst, and Brendy just turned around and said to me, he says, I've recommended you. And then Dougie O'Hara, I did my badges with him. He got in touch with me one day and he said, listen, there's a wee clip here, can you analyse it and I'll send it to the manager? And I did, and then within the space of a week it was, right, you're in my first team now. And it was like, say again. He said, no, that's you in. It's like as easy as that. Is there no interview process? He says, no, it's you've got what's needed qualifications, you're an analyst, let's go. And it was literally within the week of working with a second team, 20s, couple of kids, one or two first teamers down, that bang, you're in the first team now.
Yeah. And this is under Paddy McLaughlin.
Paddy McLaughlin, yes. Okay. And he was still quite fresh with the analysis. It was quite brand new to him, but it was something that was needed, and it's something probably now that he would swear by.
Yeah.
That it's needed, because everybody kind of needs to, in my opinion, look back on what they could have did better or what they did better. And if they did something well, analyse it and go, that was the movement that made me create a situation that I came out of it positively with. So let's do it again.
Yeah.
And if someone clicks onto it, I know what I've did, so I can maybe reverse that slightly, catch him off guard, and then do it the opposite way. And it's just wee details, advantages, again, that can make me a better player. The player speaking, obviously, which is better for the team and better for the group. And Paddy just said to me, can you do opposition analysis? I said, yeah, no problem. He said, right, okay. He said, we train on a Monday, Tuesday and Thursday. We'll do analysis on a Thursday. I said, right, no problem. Game on a Saturday was the first one. So my first session was on a Thursday, but, it didn't do any analysis because I was brand new. Had a game on a Saturday. He rings me on a Sunday, right, analysis on our night. You're doing our team as well. It was like, right. He said, no, I need you to analyse us and the opposition. And that's double the work.
Yeah.
But it's Irish League.
Yeah.
You can't afford to get performance analysis and opposition analysis. And it's still full-time teams in it, but it's a part-time league. Still more or less, there's a lot more part-time teams than full-time. So it was squeezing an awful lot in, but I didn't mind. I just loved the opportunity.
Yeah.
And as I say, I have a healthy obsession with it, and I'm backed up to the hilt. And I started analysing the first team and opposition, and actually got quite good at it, because the more you do something, you should get good at it.
Yeah.
But thankfully, because I went through the likes of my coaching badges and played a wee bit, I think I was able, when I was analysing, although you are backed up with video evidence, there's no lying with videos, I was trying to speak to players from a player point of view as well, and putting it across to them in a way that they understood. We can all come out with buzzwords and phrases, but with all due respect, it's footballers. I'm not dealing with doctors or anything like that, so just speak to them in a human way.
And don't put them on that pedestal,
Well, listen, there is some very, very bright boys knocking about the league, and I'm looking at them going, I don't know if I should be talking to them. They could be schooling me.
Yeah.
But again, if you have a wee human element, attachment, whatever it is, to get your message across, that they can absorb it, they make it better for the group, then we're winning.
Yeah.
And again, I try and use what way I went through with my mental health issues, that I don't bring it up in a conversation, but I always try and have almost like a softer side. Like, a manager for me needs to be absolutely ruthless, and that's fine.
I think that where you actually sit in the pyramid of, you've got your manager, your system manager, maybe a coach and an analysis, and then the players, you're in that little bar where you're very much 50-50.
Yeah.
And being able to synchronize everything with players, with the management team, and pretty much you're on board with everybody. You have to be. And I think that if you're too much one side or too much the other, it's a very dark place to be, because it can cost you potentially a job, and then it can also cost you relationships.
It can. But no matter what, you always back the manager. If you don't agree with him,
well, he's paying you, so you have to.
But it's ultimately, it's his decision. I would never try and give anybody tactical information differently to what the manager said, but I would maybe go around the change room and go, listen, you're facing Johnny McMurray today, see in the last 10 minutes, he's known to score goals. So when you're tiring out, you need to make sure you're on red alert. Now, he hasn't scored many with his left foot, but if he comes on the right foot, you make sure you close him down. So it's wee details like that to try and make sure that when a player's going out onto the pitch, that they're thinking about their game. And the more that we can try and produce thinking footballers, I think the league will get better. And I think the league is getting in a good place. There's a lot of people going across the water now.
There is.
So it has to be getting a better place. You know, analysts are coming in, strength and conditioning coaches, fitness coaches. Some of the managers that are around the league have played at the highest level possible. And you're going, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's gearing people up to be successful in England, I think.
Yes.
Or Scotland.
Yeah.
Like, making the model more full-time allows people to adapt quicker. And then introducing the likes of yourselves in analysis or, as you say, strength and conditioning coaches, these sorts of things which you never had 10 years ago.
No.
People going away 10 years ago when they had to go over and try and fit into a full-time team, you had to take 6 months to even catch up because you were miles off it. At least now you probably don't have a big jump.
Yeah,
there's still a jump
with that,
I would say, but it's just, at least you understand this is what we do. Analysis is something that happens in England, and they have full rooms dedicated, like a cinema, and they're in there doing their stuff, and then their S&C stuff are separate coaches, physios, whatever you need.
And there is obviously different levels. You're going across there, and money's no object. You know, a lot of teams here need to perform within their budget, so a lot of it can be compressed into a short enough time. But again, if we can give them the grounding of this is what will happen when you go across, and if we can give you a taste of it, you can deal with it better, so that when they go across, hopefully they stay across. And again, I think the league's in a good place. There's people going across and doing well and staying over there. And that's fantastic. And with the analysis, I will try as much as I can to try and help players become better. And at Cliftonville, we were doing really, really well, had a good group, a good changing room, and nearly won the league at one point. It came down to a point. It was the final day of the season. Linfield went on to win it. But we get into Europe, obviously the next season. Well, sorry, you know, at the start of the next season. And you're seeing different levels again, and you're really embracing it. And
does that give you more of an appetite to get back to that, to be like, I want to be at a team that's competing in Europe?
Yes.
To go and have the trips, have the fun, yes, but to be able to sit down and analyse full-time professional teams.
Yes. I would love, if our league went full-time, I'd be all in for it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I would love to go full-time doing it, and I would love to try and sit as long as possible and just analyse teams and come in, and you're spending the guts of a morning with your coaching staff and going through things, and Emmons turn around going, what about this and this? And you're going, happy days, because the more eyes that are looking at things, the more we can pick out and put together to make it better for the group. And I would absolutely love that. And when you go away to Europe and you're seeing the stadium and you're walking out onto the pitch and it's laser leveled, and you're kind of going, wow,
yeah,
you know, these are levels. And you always, no matter what level you're at, you should try and be the best at what you're doing. And I'm probably not, well, I would say that I'm not, but I am trying to be the best at what I'm doing. But again, I'm only trying to do that now with what I've been through in my life.
Yeah.
And I now fully respect where I am and what I'm trying to do, and I treat it well with a good attitude.
But you've also done it under different management.
Yes.
So one of the big things that clicked in my mind is when you've been introduced to analysis and you've went into the first team at Cliftonville, Paddy and Decky, you've been given scope to maybe have the freedom and go say, this is what we want you to do, but that's obviously not going to happen at every club.
No.
And not every club's going to buy into analysis. Maybe they say they will, and they mightn't. How do you deal with situations like that, and how do you know when you're potentially overstepping the mark, or it's potentially not panning out the way that you think it should be, or the stuff that you're actually analysing you feel maybe is potentially not even being used? I don't know if that's happened. This is just, if that was me and I was in that position.
It's a difficult one. You try and get to know your manager as well. I would see myself, I try and be on pitch a bit as well, so I can listen to maybe what the manager's saying, what kind of sessions they're doing. So whenever I'm doing analysis on us, you know, I can maybe turn around and go, listen, they were working on this in training and you've kind of did the opposite. And I'm just trying to relay what the manager's talking about. And then on match days, I try and get close to the manager to listen to what he's saying on the pitch as well before the game, half time, so that we're all kind of on the same page. And it is about hoping you're not overstepping the mark and thinking, am I saying something here that the manager wouldn't say? I'm trying to balance it out, but the managers that I've worked with have all been very good to me, and they've turned around and go, no, that's fine. And again, I would never, if a manager wanted to set up a 4-2-3-1, I wouldn't be going, no, don't be worried about him saying that. I always just try and say who the player they might be facing, so that again tries to get them thinking about their game, so they go out onto the pitch streamed in to help us get a positive result.
I always thoroughly enjoyed the aspect of analysis, and the reason why is you've touched on it there. It allows you to understand your game, and I think where you've touched on the best is saying that footballers don't necessarily like to be told what they're doing wrong.
That is a difficult one, and especially nowadays, we all know the world's slightly changing a bit more, and everybody needs more positivity in life, which I'm fine with. Yeah. And my job with analysis probably is showing a lot of negativity, because it is mistakes that when you're losing games, it's kind of, how did he give away that goal?
100%.
So I need to be project it.
I think that it's also in a way where you can't go completely the opposite way, where it has to be positivity. And I think there's too many players in changing rooms that want that, and it's now getting to the stage where it's maybe too far gone, where you can't actually maybe dig people out as much, or you're maybe worried about how they're going to react. Or
that's maybe down to roles and responsibilities. So the manager is always in charge, and he can dig a player out, rightly or wrongly. My job is not to dig a player out, because I'm not there to tell him what to do or what not to do, but I'm there to kind of show them that if they've made a mistake, how can they be better at it?
Yeah.
So I'll never undermine the manager. And again, if he's digging him out, that's not, I don't mean it in a bad way, but that's nothing to do with me, because the manager is the one that it reflects on, and he needs people winning games, and that is just the way it is with the highest level of football in this country so far, and whatever country you're playing in, whatever level you're playing in, the manager is the one that's going to get it in the neck if things aren't working out on the pitch. But my role, I feel, is if I'm watching training or I'm listening to messages from managers, assistant managers, I'll take a wee note of it on my iPad, and when I'm doing analysis, I'll say to them, listen, I heard you saying this is the clip of it, you alright with that? And it's actually getting to the stage now that I'm not necessarily needing to ask them, I'm just showing them, they're going, yep, spot on,
done,
feed it on.
Yeah. One of the things I want to speak to you about is you've had like a sort of up and down trajectory with football. And what I mean by that is you go into Cliftonville with Paddy, you're challenging.
Yep.
It starts off very well. Unfortunately, whenever we got to speak to each other and you came and worked for Ballymena, we were dogfight at the bottom of the league. Things were a lot different.
Yeah.
What's it like being in a situation where your analysis is working, you're getting yourself wins and results, and then all of a sudden you're in a dogfight relegation? It's difficult, it's tough, and it just doesn't seem like the analysis is maybe working. What's working on the pitch, or what's trying to work on the pitch, doesn't actually work.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, and moods change.
Moods can change, you know it yourself, that
because I know mine did massively. I started
confidence brings confidence,
and I was in a dark place at times.
I know. When I went to Ballymena, I got brought in for the split, and Jim Irvine had rang me and said, listen, need a wee bit of work done. It's like, yeah, no problem. It's thankful for the opportunity. I was just willing to get back in. He said, if it works out, hopefully we'll get you back in next season, and it did work out. But it was in the split, and Ballymena were down around the bottom, and it came to that playoff. But teams aren't winning games because of analysis.
No.
So, yes, I can maybe turn around and go, is my analysis working or not working? I'm just trying to bring a bit of professionalism in, let people see their game. If I can improve it, happy days. The responsibility still needs to come within. You know, players get across that white line. They make their own decisions. The managers will feed information as well, but ultimately the player will need to take responsibility. So I've went from challenging, getting into Europe, going to Ballymena. I loved it. because you're still dealing with high-level footballers.
Yeah.
And you're still speaking to people and trying to help them become better. And if a player does well at Ballymena and kicks on to another team and does well, you can say, I rub shoulders with him, fair play to him.
Yeah.
You know, but no matter what, it's still a high-level football, in my opinion. And they mightn't be top of the league, but they're getting paid for playing football. They're in a very good situation.
Yeah, still proud.
Yeah, I loved it. And Jim Irvine was very good to me and brought me on board and fought tooth and nail to try and make sure that if I needed anything, there it is on your lap and stuff. And when I was at Ballymena for a while, obviously, as you know, started off the next season, went on that mental run. What was it, 11 unbeaten or something? It was like, where we go here?
Yeah.
And then it got a wee bit erratic, but that's football, you know. People can be brilliant at their job one day and then the next day not feeling the energy and not as good. But on a football pitch, you can massively get punished for that.
The difference in what I'm saying to you whenever I think that when we come in is people are that low that I think that you obviously got overstepped. And what I mean by that is because we were in that fight, it's hard for people to take on something new.
Yeah.
But when you get the opportunity to do it more regular, you see the benefits. And I completely see the benefits of analysis.
I think it's a professional league. All right, it might be classed as part-time stroke full-time. It's professional footballers, so treat them professionally.
But most people are 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's a hybrid model. It's more full-time than it isn't.
Yeah. And I think that whenever you're speaking to footballers, if you can give them details, and I believe that details equal standards, and the more details you have, it should improve standards.
Yeah.
So when I'm speaking to a player, I will try and give them enough detail where it's not overpowering, but enough detail where we're going, that's good information to take on board. And it gives them a wee 1%.
Yeah.
And we always hear it's all about those 1%. So if I can go into a wee bit of detail and show them something and it helps improve, then we're winning.
Yeah.
The result mightn't have been as positive, but if we go to play this team the next time, we can see where we've went right, maybe where we've went wrong, and can we improve again? And for me, that's the part of it that I really enjoy as well, because it's helping people become better, and footballers obviously as well.
You moved on at Ballymena, which was unfortunate for us as a team, but obviously understandable because you're with Paddy before. Paddy takes a job at Glenavon. What do you think was the difference from your time at Cliftonville to your time at Glenavon? Because when I first seen the appointment and I thought that Paddy was going to go in there, I was like, unbelievable appointment for Glenavon. And I think everybody had it struck that it was going to go very well. And it didn't, which happens. I mean, people go in, people just don't function properly, or teams don't click, or whatever it is. But from being in there, how difficult was it? And what do you think the big differences were and why it didn't work?
Well, when we first went in, now Paddy gave me a massive opportunity, said I would like you to come in as an analyst, but I want you actually to go right on the bench and learn and listen and all the rest. And that was like, wow. You know, that
get
was
the opportunity to do something that you've wanted to do.
Like really on the bench, you're within arm's reach of actively what is exactly going on. And I just thought, fantastic. And when we first went in, you know, Glenavon were second bottom and struggling a wee bit. And then we went on this crazy run and collected so many points and did really well. And it slightly petered out at the end of the season, but I think it was like the safety net had been reached and everybody went,
relax.
Yeah, we're safe. And then we went in the pre-season and we worked really hard on recruiting and changing and trying to make things better. And it just didn't work.
Yeah.
And you can't just turn around and go, that's what went wrong. It just, we got hampered a wee bit by injuries, but that happens to everybody. But we tried to recruit a young squad, and we were going, right, we'll bed these boys in nice and easy. And you know, in a lot of months' time, these things are going to do really well. But then few people left, few people get injured, few people weren't getting to the standards that they were of last season, and we had to throw quite a lot in quickly. And they probably didn't have the experience to deal with situations in a match to get them through spells. So no matter what in a game, no matter who you're playing, at some point, the other team's going to have the ball a wee bit longer. They might have a corner.
And they're definitely going to be on top for 10 or 15 minutes.
Well, exactly. And unfortunately, that 10, 15 minutes, we seem to concede a goal. You know, there was times in games that we were going through on goal and was getting cleared off the line or would miss or the keeper pulled off a save, but they got a half a chance, bang, down 1-0. And it was like, right. But then that took off like a snowball. And it was almost that as soon as things started to wobble, we absolutely wobbled.
Yeah.
It was an earthquake and then went 1-0 down and just couldn't recover. And I still think there's a really good group of players there. And the management team that's in now are doing well. They've had some great results. And I hope that they do stay up. It's a great wee club. You know, it's family orientated and they do what they can to help you. But we worked really, really, really hard and it just didn't work. And the recruitment side of it's massive. And we did recruit a lot of players. And we spoke to a lot of players that we didn't even go to the club with. You know yourself, you've been in the league and around the league and you're still knowing things that some of the money that people were asking. You couldn't even have asked the board. They would have said to you, listen, give us 5 minutes that we'll get it together here.
Yeah.
To get the courage to tell you to get out.
Yeah.
You couldn't have went to them. And sometimes then you were phoning so many people and they were asking for mega money. And then when you were speaking to somebody and you're going, we need to get somebody in here.
Yeah.
And it's not that they were the last option, but you wanted them in, but you didn't want to put them right in right away.
Yes. It was maybe your reserve.
We wanted to try and bed them in because, it's some of the players that were coming in were coming up from Championship and to throw them right in right away, so many of them, was hard.
And especially whenever you kind of get into the situation that you're in where you're losing games.
Yeah.
Because once you get into that rut, and the first year when we came back to Ballymena, I've never fully experienced it. And it's very difficult to get.
It is.
Like the mentality changes. It's not like you're beat before you're beat, but there's something in the air. I don't know how to explain it, but once you're in it, you know that, and then you go 1-0 down, you're saying, going,
how do we get out of this?
And then it's just a snowball. Everything goes against you, as you say, penalties or free kicks or offsides, and you're saying, going, come in.
But everything, like in life, is almost character building.
It is.
And going through the rough, hopefully to come out the other side and start going, right, we had moments in this game before. I know how to deal with this now.
Yeah.
But there was so many that were brand new, and we did have a couple of players that were injured that you turn around now and go, if they were on the pitch, they would make a massive difference. And I don't want to name names and put other people under, and saying you weren't good enough. They are good enough. They're playing high-level football.
Yeah.
But there was so many that went in at once, and it just seemed as though by the time that they're starting to gel, it's a bit too late.
Yeah.
We hadn't a couple of wins and we weren't scoring enough goals and we're leaking the odd one in and stuff, and unfortunately it just didn't work out.
Yeah. But things do become more positive, and as time goes, people need analysts.
Yes.
It's not too long before you get a phone call from a very old friend of ours, Niall Curry, and you're back to work. You've been in the last sort of 9-10 weeks and back enjoying it again.
Back enjoying it, and I enjoyed my time at Glenavon. It was difficult because you weren't picking up results, but good club, trying to make it better. You did put effort in. Now you're at Portadown and you're getting some good results there. And now, like a lot of people don't know now, and I never knew, but see a 3:15, 10-3, like he comes to life.
Yeah.
Like he
his persona changes.
He can get
manager then.
Every last drop out of you.
Yeah.
And you're walking past them and you're ready to headbutt somebody, and that's not me. And you're kind of going, I ain't out here to kill somebody. I ain't out here to win. And then he's walking past you with a smile and you're going, how's this working out? You've got everybody ready to kill dead things and you're giggling away. And he's very good at it.
Yeah.
And everybody has their niche. People can go and get a tactics board out and move all sorts of magnets, and you're kind of going, that's class to look at, and he knows what he's talking about. And other people can go up and whisper in your ear and go, you're brilliant the other night. I absolutely love to see you playing. And that gets a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And he's found his niche of man management and getting every last drop out of people.
Yeah.
And some of the results have been fantastic. Some of the performances have been fantastic, and results probably haven't came with the performance, but you're looking going, he's good at what he does here.
He's a great manager. He's been in the league, and I think his stats kind of say for themselves, don't they? Like, he's won the championship numerous times. He's got people up. He's got people promoted. He's been around.
He's managing at a high level.
Players,
yeah,
and how he's going to do a job for him for what he's looking. He mightn't be the most technical person in the world, or in the 4-2-3-1s and moving and rotations and all that sort of stuff, but the
whatever works for him.
The man's there to get results and get people happy, and he knows that if he has a happy squad, he's going to get those results.
Whatever works, whatever gets you the 3 points, and he is bought into the analysis, but probably still feeling the ground with it as well, and he's probably making sure that it's not information overload, which is absolutely fair, because Portadown are only training 2 nights a week at the moment. They're needing facilities, so he needs to make sure that the 2 nights he has are on pitch as much as possible.
Utilising it as best as
you
can. Yeah.
Because the last thing you need is to be sitting in the analysis room for half an hour, 40 minutes, and you've only an hour and 5 minutes left of training.
Yeah.
And 20 minutes of that could be a wee warm-up and stuff, so that's the time, even less again. Mm-hmm. So it's trying to make right of the time that he has available to him, and he is. And Portadown is a massive club, and Niall's backing me, and Stevie Hines got me in as well, and they're asking what can be better. I will produce videos and I'll show them things, and they're going, yeah, love that, feed that to the player, and can we do this? And yeah, no bother, I'll work with you as much as possible, but no matter what, Niall's in charge.
Yeah.
So what I'll try and do during a game is I have an iPad and there's an app on it, and I produce stats on it. And I'll go in at half time and I'll show them the stats of things that are happening in areas of the field. And listen, they can see it.
Yeah.
But I'll back it up with stats. And for example, there might be final third entries on a right or left hand side, but I'll have exactly how many. And I'll say, listen, the right back's getting a wee bit of a tough time. You might need to double up. Mm-hmm. Or the midfielder might be going too high at times and leaving him isolated, whatever it is. And he might turn around and go, no, I think it is. And it's like, that's fair enough. Whatever you think it is, I'm just letting you know, because at the end of the day, he is in charge.
Yeah.
But I'm just showing him, the stats, and Niall has bought into it. And there's a stat on, I would count second balls. And if you listen to any Irish League game,
whoever picks up a second ball usually wins the game.
It's massive. It's massive. And it's basics.
It is.
And the basics in football, if you do them well, there's going to be a lot more positive outcomes than there is negative ones. And second balls in the Irish League is enormous. Mm-hmm. Because it is a bit of blood and thunder. The ball is in the air a bit, and if you can get control of it as it's coming down and stay in possession, you're going to do well.
Yeah.
And Niall is all about landing on them seconds. No matter who's in your way, make sure you run over the top of them to get on that second one. It's like,
that sums them up.
Right on, man. Whatever it takes to win. And one of the biggest examples is that Gary Thompson is literally playing on one knee. He's struggling with a knee injury. But Niall's managing him. And I speaking to Gary the other week, and he says, he saved my career. He signed me to play in the championship, and I'm still going a couple of years later, and he says, I feel brilliant, because Niall's now just managing him.
Yeah.
So that on a Saturday, he is absolutely ripping down doors, ready to go.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about again. He's not flogging him during the week and making him train too hard, and he's turning up on a Saturday like Tin Man. He's fresh.
Yeah.
And whatever works to make it right, to produce the positive results, who am I to argue?
Yeah. And to be fair, I was speaking to Gary weirdly yesterday, because he just had a wee boy, didn't he?
He did.
So congratulations to Gary. What a man. What a fantastic fella.
What a pro.
And what an animal the fella is. An absolute animal when he's playing in centre midfield. So.
And do you know what? He got injured a couple of weeks ago. One of your boys fell on him accidentally and split his head open. And there's nothing out of it.
Yeah.
There's no kind of grabbing anybody by a throat. It's bandage milk, get me on.
Yeah.
And he just gets on it. And it's like, That's a model pro.
He does. Well, listen, we'll finish on that because I can't really see a better way out than finishing on Sir Gary Thompson and the birth of his son and him being
Absolutely
the bull that he is from all those times for me playing with him. But, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to obviously have an insight. Thank you for sharing, obviously, your story with us. And as I say, I've really enjoyed the time that I had with you through the analysis. But we finish on hugs.
Yes, I'm all right with that.
Up you it. I was stiff actually on the gym the other day back from it. Oh,
What a man.
oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure, sir. Join us next week on the On The Spot Football Podcast for yet another fantastic guest. Guests are coming on from absolutely everywhere. Norway, England, down south. And it's an absolute pleasure to have them in the studio talking. See you soon.